This is Russell Scott. I have an interesting story to tell you about Pitcairn. Pitcairn is a very interesting place. It's an extremely remote island in the middle of the South Pacific. And if you recognize the name Pitcairn, it's because of the Mutiny on the Bounty story. Pitcairn is the island that the mutineers ultimately settled on, trying to evade the Admiralty and being hanged. Now, the story of the Mutiny on the Bounty, many people have read the book. I've read the book. I've watched the movies. I'm a huge fan of the story. But the story is bullshit. The skeleton of the story is true, except for the major fault being Captain Bligh, who was really a lieutenant. Lieutenant Bligh made captain just for this one voyage, this voyage to Tahiti to get the breadfruit. Captain Bligh was not the ruthless man he was made out to be. In fact, if you look at the actual record of Captain Bligh, he was a very lenient man. When you would go out on these big ships, and the Bounty was not a big ship, it was actually a relatively small ship for the Navy. But when you would go out on these long journeys, it's not like you had an 8-hour sleep. You would sleep 4 hours and you would be working the rest of the time. Small amount of time for fun, for social activities, but it was essentially a lot of work. Well, Captain Bligh, the real Captain Bligh, gave his men an 8-hour sleep. This was unheard of. But he was a well-read man. He believed in health. He believed in his soldiers being healthy for the betterment of all. So he was a really interesting guy. History has misjudged him, or maybe we're just in the process of re-educating ourselves. Captain Bligh was not a horrible man as the famous Mutiny on the Bounty book by Nordhoff and Hall would have you believe. Him keel-hauling or beating dead men, that's all fantasy. All of that was all created by the mutineers in order for them to escape being hanged. To escape the gallows. Anyway, Pitcairn, this island Pitcairn, that's what brings us to today. So, I was reading about the Mutiny on the Bounty and some of these very things I was talking to you about. I'm planning on doing a show about the true story of the Bounty. Some of these shows I do, they're created very quickly, and sometimes they take months and months of research and the right guest before the shows are made and put out there. Merlin, Shakespeare, Jesus. These things take some time to research. The Mutiny on the Bounty takes a little bit of time, as opposed to, say, the latest UFC fight. So I've been working on this. I've been working on this Mutiny on the Bounty story, the real Mutiny on the Bounty. What was it really happened on the Bounty? That's the story. That's the show. And in the process, I learned about Pitcairn. Pitcairn is an interesting place. Pitcairn to this day is populated with the descendants of Fletcher Christian and John Adams. People always mention Fletcher Christian, but people have to understand that John Adams was the only guy alive with 10 other women and 18 children by the time they were actually discovered at Pitcairn. So when they say the descendants of Fletcher Christian, most of these people are related to John Adams. But of course, he's a nobody in the history books, really, except for the fact that he was the one mutineer left. So everyone mentions the Christian family. And there are the Christian family names still to this day on Pitcairn. Now, the island of Pitcairn is very small. In fact, it's only 18 square miles. And of that land, only a small amount of it is really all that usable. Roughly 50 people live there. That number can be 47 or 52. It goes up, it goes down, but it never really deviates too far from 50. It was at its highest points after the Second World War, where it had about 200 people. But now it's down to about 50. So what is so interesting about Pitcairn, other than the mutiny story and the fact that there's 50 people living there? Now, they were separated from the rest of the world. Their morals were different than ours, even though the population of Pitcairn are Seventh-day Adventists. And I didn't know, but apparently being a Seventh-day Adventist means you can be a pedophile. In 2004, charges were laid against 7 men living on Pitcairn and 6 living abroad for multiple counts of sexual encounters with children. That's right. On Pitcairn, it was totally okay. This island of mutineer descendants, it was very much okay. These Seventh-day Adventists to practice in pedophilia. The island, in fact, was rife with it. It was a normal part of life. Grown men having sex with 8-year-old children. Very normal on Pitcairn. Which leads one to believe where this practice came from. Was this inherited as a practice from John Adams? Was John Adams a pedophile? Were the mutineers of the Bounty pedophiles? Were they having sex with Tahitian children? So you say to yourself, well, listen, Russell, they had no connection with the outside world. They didn't know that things weren't that way. Okay, so that's why they had leniency given to them. They were given some basic slap on their wrists, and they spent some time at a very easygoing jail at Bob's Valley, they call it. This is the island of Bob's Valley. They were allowed to come and go at certain times. You know, they couldn't destroy the island of Pitcairn, so they basically had these men that were jailed. They were allowed to come in and out to make sure they got their work done. In 2010, the then mayor Mike Warren faced 25 charges of possessing images and videos of child pornography on his computer. In fact, you can see some videos on YouTube with Mike Warren doing some interviews via satellite to people in Britain. And when asked, do they eat pork, he simply answered, it is against the rules of Leviticus. If you read the Bible, it clearly says in Leviticus that you can't eat pork. So the mayor of Pitcairn was running under the law of Leviticus. This is where you stone women. Just read Leviticus. I've read it. It's just nonsense. And this Mike Warren, who comes off as a total douchebag jerk-off in this interview I'm talking to you about, he subsequently gets himself busted for child porn on his computer. They barely can pull down any speeds there. But if you're the mayor of Pitcairn, there is enough speed. There's enough speed to get your child porn. Somehow he was able to find it and download it all on the United Kingdom's dime. Because that's right, Pitcairn is 100% subsidized by the United Kingdom. This story gets weirder and weirder. To give you an idea of how understood the pedophilia situation is there, if you're under 16 years of age, you need a special entry clearance application. And as of 2016, this year, the UK's Foreign and Commonwealth Office does not allow their staff based on Pitcairn to be accompanied by their children. If you got a kid and you take them to Pitcairn, the child will be abused. Children living on Pitcairn now are being abused. The government on Pitcairn is corrupt. And I'm going to go to the next step here. There are many videos. There are many documentaries and videos out there now on YouTube. One of the really good documentary is Take Me to Pitcairn, which does not mention the pedophilia or any negative aspect to Pitcairn whatsoever. It's about one man's journey to Pitcairn Island. Watch it. Take Me to Pitcairn. Journey to Pitcairn. The people of Pitcairn speak. Repopulation of Pitcairn. Pitcairn has about 50 people living there. It is everyone's basic understanding that eventually the society there will die unless they bring in people from the outside world. So, a few years ago, Pitcairn put out a worldwide call to help repopulate Pitcairn. Come to paradise. Pitcairn needs you. So you can go to their website right now, immigration.gov.pn. Repopulation, Government of the Pitcairn Islands. And if you go through the processes, you will find that you'll have to pay a $500 application fee at the end of it. A $500 application fee that I paid. I also sent them a very well-written email as to what my qualifications and reason for that I would be a benefit to the island are. These included the fact that in my real life I'm a building contractor and other things that I feel that would have brought certain, I'm of a good age, there were certain financial requirements at the island. You need to have 30 grand in cash if you want to come to that island. And I thought, well, I can get this money together. I can build a house on Pitcairn. Land is free. There are no taxes. This is an island of pedophiles that pay no taxes, and they are ripping the world off at $500 a pop. Come, move to Pitcairn. You think I'm mad because I didn't get accepted? I couldn't care less. I was just trying to see if they accept people at all. And don't even start with the, you just want to live on pedophile island. Listen, that was supposed to have all been taken care of back in 2004. As it turns out, the mayor, Mike Warren, and his Leviticus rulings of law, Seventh-day Adventist. If you ever drive through British Columbia and you go through any of these small towns, you always find these Seventh-day Adventist church. They take over these little places. They feed on the weak. Yeah, I said it. Fucking A. And these people of Pitcairn are no fucking different. They're crazy. They're fucking... Watch the videos. Watch the movies on Pitcairn. These are like Appalachian types. Trailer park trash of the sea. $500. You know how many people have moved to Pitcairn? 1. The worldwide relocation to Pitcairn. How many people over the past 5 years have moved there? 1. You don't pay taxes at Pitcairn. They give you land for free. How many people do you think have moved to Pitcairn over the past 5 years? 1. 1 person. How many people do you think have applied to live there? Land is free. No taxes. They say that the honey there is the purest on earth. In fact, the queen only eats honey from the bees of Pitcairn. Isn't that a trip? That's right. The bees of Pitcairn are disease-free. Are you telling me that nobody wants to live there? That only 1 person in the past 5 years wanted to live there? No. That's not what's happening. They're taking the 500 and the application part of it goes in the trash. Ka-ching! $500. How many people worldwide have applied, do you think, to get into Pitcairn? If you go through YouTube, you'll find over 500,000 views on their videos. You telling me only 1 person applied? I know I applied, so that's 1 person. 37-year-old Russell Scott, building contractor, strapping man, educated, expert in communications. Here's the $500. Do you have the money? Yeah, I got the money to live there. They don't want you living there. This is their island. The whole repopulation of Pitcairn story is a scam. They don't want you living there. It's theirs. What do the tourists say? You know what? The chances of you actually getting your foot on Pitcairn are so slim that they say more people travel to Antarctica. Pitcairn. Pitcairn, the island, descendants of pedophiles, thieves. That's right, the thieves that stole the bounty. Arsonists. Thieves. Pedophiles. The cruise ships go by Pitcairn. Usually you'll go to Tahiti, then you'll go out to Pitcairn, you'll even go to Easter Island. That's the trip. Now, it makes all the sense in the world that a big cruise ship, they're not going to tender in all these people from the ship onto the island. That little island would not be able to handle it. That just makes sense. But every single person from that island goes to that ship. And every single person on that island is stocked full of merchandise. And they tender up to the cruise ships and they get on board and they're hawking t-shirts, purses, art. It's all crap. And most of it has the label, Made in China. That's right. It's made in China, this Pitcairn shit. It's not even made in Pitcairn. It's not some authentic Pitcairn hand-woven shirt. It's a 100% cotton gildan, made in China. Nobody lands on Pitcairn. If you're really, really lucky, and again, the same amount of people that land on Antarctica, if you're really lucky and you got lots of money, you can pay a charter boat, and you might get yourself close enough that they'll tender you in. But they don't like it. They don't like people on their island. They don't like people with cameras on their island. The BBC even at one time was turned away. Don't come on the island with your cameras. But yet the island of Pitcairn is totally run with subsidy. The UK subsidized Pitcairn to the tune of £10 million. The European Union, €5 million. They barely got internet there. You can't even get cable television. It's an island in the middle of fucking nowhere. I get it. You're not going to have everything. But if you look at that island and the way everything's going, where did the money go? They're stealing $500 from all the applicants to Pitcairn. If you apply to live on Pitcairn, you will not be accepted. If the doctor dies on Pitcairn or no longer wants to live there or work there, then you may get on if you're a doctor. But you and the family are not going to be applying your $500 and moving to Pitcairn and living the life of your dreams, raising your family, living with the disease-free bees, where the coral is so pure that researchers, check it out, check out the videos, guys. The researchers are saying this is the cleanest, purest reef on Earth. You're not going to be living there. The repopulation of Pitcairn is a scam. It's a scam to get your $500. It's a scam to get you to visit Pitcairn in high hopes that one day you'll actually live there. Again, you will not. And chances are when you go to visit the island, you're not going on. In fact, the chances are so goddamn good, if you got on, it'd be hitting the lottery ticket. No, you're going to end up buying a Chinese shirt that says Pitcairn on it. How much does it cost to stay at Pitcairn if you should so happen to get on that island? $150 per night. If you stayed 10 nights in Pitcairn, you're broke. They'll take all your money. Don't go to Pitcairn. Pitcairn's a joke. Pitcairn's a fucked up place run by fucked up people. They are thieves. They are pedophiles. Pedophiles, however you want to pronounce it. They are fucked up people. Do the research. Apply. Send your $500 over to Pitcairn. If you want to call it a donation, maybe you can write it off as a tax expense. I don't know. I know I'm writing mine off. It was research for the Russell Scott Show. Pitcairn. It's a scam. Check out the videos. Pitcairn. Take me to Pitcairn. Really good one. And notice the people. Look at the people. Watch the pedophile Trouble in Paradise documentary, which strongly features Jackie Christian, who, by the way, to this day is pushing this repopulation of Pitcairn scam. Oh, another thing I forgot to tell you. If you watch any of these come to Pitcairn, they'll show you these beautiful beaches and the coral and all these things. They are not showing the island that you'll be living on, Pitcairn Island. No. They're showing Henderson, Ueno, Ducie, the islands of Pitcairn. The Pitcairn Islands are 4 islands, but only one of them is inhabited by people. The rest have crabs and really cool birds and the most incredibly pure ecosystems barely touched by humans. You ain't going to Henderson. You ain't going to be on an unbelievable beach. If you get to Pitcairn, which you're not, but if you get onto Pitcairn, it's a rocky beach. And the wind is fierce. And the people are fucked up. Save your money. Don't fall for the Tahiti treat. Pitcairn is a scam. The people of Pitcairn are disgusting. Check out the reviews. All the reviews on the cruise ships about Pitcairn. Incredible disappointment. Pitcairn is a scam. Don't go there. Like, comment, subscribe.